So this video is about how to deal with your enemies. You know, people maybe in your community or in your workplace, in your environment, people who gossip negatively about you, people who are jealous of you, and people who try to take you down in every kinds of way, and people who just hate you, but they watches you all the time. They watch your every move, and they are kind of obsessed with you. Although the obsession is coming from deep hatred and jealousy. I would never imagine myself making a video about this, like even 2 years ago. Probably because in the earlier part of my life, I've never experienced, so much hate, jealousy, like pure envy and hatred and people just trying to take you down, even when you treat them with respect, and even when you tried all you can to try to make it make it okay, or to form some kind of a mutual respect with the other person. They just they don't take your kindness and respect at all, and they just continue to poke and poke and poke and try to get a reaction out of you, try to take you down in every kind of way, and being watched by somebody or by others in an obsessive way, coming from other people. And yeah, honestly, I've never dealt with something like this in an earlier part of my life, but but it's been happening, so I thought I would share my thought on it, and maybe somebody else can benefit. So, the first thing that I want to say is that I realized that it actually happens to a lot of people. It happens, actually, this is a very common case, which I didn't know before when I was younger. But when you do have a light in your spirit, when you are a powerful spirit, when you are generally pure-hearted, you're generally a kind person, a sweet person, somebody who just at a higher vibration than the average, especially if you are on a spiritual path and if you're growing spiritually, and you are becoming more and more elevated and more powerful, and you are becoming more purified by your spiritual practices and study. And this kind of happens naturally, but it also applies to, if you're just a very successful person, or if you're very, very talented at certain fields, if you're very gifted at something, it happens very often. And so the first thing that I realized is just, it is a common thing. And this is actually good news in a way that, now I know I've been elevated. That's why you have hate and jealousy. If you don't have those, it means that, very often it means that you're just kind of mediocre and you're harmless. And is it so good to be absolutely harmless, right? I mean, power is always a double-edged sword. And if you have power, it means that you are not absolutely harmless. So, you know what? Maybe it is a good thing. So that's the first thing. Let's see, the second thing. I suddenly remembered, and I read this quote many, many years ago when I was a teenager, and I was a Madonna fan. And I remember this quote by Madonna. She said something along the line about, like, when she was on the rise, when she was becoming a superstar, and she's got haters, just, go to her every concert and just follow her everywhere and watches her every move and see what she's been up to, but hate her and just send her all this hatred and spread hatred about her, and everything they say about her is just negative. And she said, you know what, if you hate me so much and you still watches me like this, bitch, you're a fan. So I love that attitude, and I just remember that quote from her. So, that is I thought that is just the attitude I'm gonna take on. Like, if you watch my every move and if you're hating on me, bitch, you're a fan. Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing is actually about compassion. And I realized this just yesterday, actually. I thought, your enemies, and I don't even, like 2 years ago, even 1 year ago, I don't know. Like I really don't like the word enemy and try to say this, you have enemies and da da da. But now I have to use this word because, enemies, they do exist, and strong oppositions, they do exist. And what else do you call them but enemies, right? And people trying to, or forces trying to bring you down so badly. So your enemies, why would they be like this in the first place? Is because they're threatened by you. They're threatened, they're scared, because they're scared of your potential, your power, your beauty, your whatever, abundance, intelligence, whatever you can generate, right? That they see themselves cannot generate for themselves. So essentially, your enemies, why would they try to bring you down? Or people, why would they try to do this? It's because they feel inferior. They feel they're not good enough. They feel like you're better than them, actually. That's essentially the core of it, is that they feel like they cannot measure up when they're in your presence. When they see you, it triggers their insecurity, and they feel jealous, and they feel powerless because they see your power, and essentially they don't see that inside of themselves. So if we can see that the source of that is actually coming from a sense of insecurity, a sense of powerlessness, a sense of inferiority from the other party, then naturally we can have compassion for that person. Or at least that's what happened to me. Like, naturally, I began to feel really like compassion for the other party. I'm just like, it says a lot about your trauma, your fear, your feeling of inadequacy, and you're projecting that all onto another person who you actually are perceived to be higher than yourself. But then you don't want to admit that to yourself, so you have to bring them down to a really deep, your level, a down level, so you can feel better about yourself. And that's sad. I kind of want to say that's pathetic, but I try not to be so judgmental. So sad, at least. So so wouldn't you naturally have compassion for them? I would have compassion for people like this. So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing is, when things like this happen, for you to not get triggered, for you to not be dragged by their every move, whatever they are doing to you, for you to remain this equilibrium, right? For you to remain a balance, for you to remain with yourself, you must know yourself, really. And of course, most of us don't know ourselves. That's why we do spiritual practice. That's why we, try to grow spiritually. Sure, we don't know ourselves, but the core reason that I know why, we can get triggered, we can still feel, we will feel something, right? Like when things like this happen, we can't just like be a spiritual master and be like, brush it off and be like, okay, I only have compassion, whatever, right? If you are a sort of like a regular person, like I am, you're gonna feel something. You are gonna feel the jealousy. You're gonna feel the hatred. You're gonna feel negative energy being sent your way. You're gonna feel their obsession, negative obsession towards you, and you're gonna feel in some way affected and out of balance. And and the core reason for your being influenced by them is because you still don't know yourself enough. If you truly, really, the closer you are to yourself, the more you know your true self, really the more you won't get affected. So it actually, for me, it becomes a kind of a encouragement for me on my spiritual path. I'm like, okay, so this is a reflection of, I need to progress further, right? I'm not there yet. I'm not I'm still have a lot to know about myself. If I still get influenced by negativity from others, it just means like, hey, I need some progression. Hey, I need to work harder. So, but the core of it is because I still don't know myself enough, and I know that if I know myself more, the more I know myself, the less I would get influenced by this. And there's a beautiful story, actually, and I watched this story maybe 2-3 years ago, and it's a Buddhist master who is Chinese Buddhist master, and he actually shared a story about himself and how he was being hated on, and of course he was a public figure. He was a very big name, especially in China, I think he wrote a book, and there are haters and who are interpret him in a very negative way and spreading just negative rumors about him and saying all this just crappy things about him that's really not him. And he said to respond to that, he's just like, whatever you are saying, that's from your imagination. That's a character you created. That has nothing to do with me. I am here. I know myself. This is me. And whatever you are saying, that's your projection. Whatever negativity that you are spreading is like a fiction you're creating. And for yourself and then for others. You want to create a fiction and you're creating a fictional character, essentially. That's not me. It has nothing to do with me. So he's like, why would I get even offended or get angry or anything? I don't have any reaction towards it. It's just like, somebody created a fiction character. It has nothing to do with me. Because what? Why? Because I know myself. This is me. I'm here. And that has just nothing to do with me. Whatever you're saying, it has nothing to do with me, who I am. So I just remember that story, and I thought, the same line applies here to me, to you, to anybody who's going through similar stuff. It's just like, they have a little story in their head. Let them imagine. Let them create that story for themselves and for whatever other people that they're, gossiping to. It's just their story. It has nothing to do with me. All right. And the fifth thing is about power. And I thought about that. As I mentioned previously, I thought this is happening is precisely a reflection of you are rising up in your own power. If you're a powerless person, nobody's gonna bother you. Nobody cares, right? If somebody cares so much, if people begin to be obsessively trying to spread negative things about you out of nowhere, and it's like you don't even have much interaction with them. They're just making up shit about you. It just means it says everything about your presence, and your power and your potential. So that's good news. And I thought about this. So I thought because I've been interested in agoras. If you know, agoras is like the tantric practices. I mean, I don't know much about agoris and agora as a spiritual practice, but I've read a few books about it, and I've watched videos about it, and it's like I do yoga, and the yogic path is like, on the spiritual path is like the right hand side. The agora is called the left hand side of God, the left hand path. And generally, so agora is when we see, the general public see agora is like people who are kind of naked and they smear like cremation ashes all over their body, and they do their sadhana or spiritual practice on cremation ground in India. They are very fierce. They eat from skulls, and they eat human flesh and bring matter and all of this. They're fierce, right? Agora means like the terrible, and that's as a spiritual practice, because they're trying not to distinguish between, you know, what is good, what is bad. They could eat their own shit. They could eat their own feces. Things like this as a spiritual practice. I've been sort of interested in that, and I know like agoris do their sadhanas and spiritual practice on cremation grounds and so on. So I was thinking about that. I was thinking like, you know, I mean, I don't think I would be, or also I've read a story about agoris who do certain mantras and practices sitting on dead bodies, to use the dead person's energy and to do some kind of practices to raise up their own energy. Anyways, so I was interested, and I thought, I mean, not as an interest, not as a practice for myself, but just as a general interesting thing I was looking at, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't think it would feel so horrible to me to be sitting in the cremation ground and doing certain, you know, agory things. For me, it wasn't shocking, or it wasn't dark. It wasn't like that. Like, oh my god, I don't have a horrifying sort of reaction to it. I was sort of thought, you know what? If somebody pushed me to really do those things, I mean, I don't feel a lot of fear within me towards certain practices that they do. So I was thinking about that, and you know, and I thought, you know, but the world can be your cremation ground if you are a genuine spiritual seeker, if you're genuinely going on a spiritual path, if you're doing, you know, your sadhana, if you're studying, if you're trying to purify yourself and progress very intensely, then the world is your cremation ground. You don't have to be an aguri and do all these sort of physically disgusting or dark things. Well, in a general sense, you know, disgusting or dark things, to be an aguri, right? Like things like this, what I'm talking about today, extreme envy, jealousy, hatred coming from others, and manipulations, and people trying to spread negative gossip about you that is not even true, like nothing, no truth-based, just this hatred about you in a group, in a community. You know, you're experiencing something like this, like pure hate coming from others, and other people obsessively watching you and trying to pick something, just trying to pick, you know, anything that you do that could, you know, they could sort of correct you, or they could, you know, say something negatively about. And how irritating is that? And that could be, I mean, that comparing to, for example, doing practices on the cremation ground. Maybe when I imagine myself like doing practice on the cremation ground, I feel that's so scary. That doesn't trigger so much fear in me, at least when I imagine it, it doesn't. But things like this happening, does it trigger certain fear in me? I do feel certain fear. I mean, I feel discomfort, to say the least. And that's why I'm here talking about this, right? You are in some way affected. So, you know, but it's like, those aguri practices, it seems, you know, out there, horrifying, whatever, like, in that way. But the world can be your cremation ground. This thing that is happening, this sort of like worldly nastiness, that's happening, I mean, that is also the spiritual cremation ground. That is horrible things that you have to deal with. And that is making you uncomfortable. And as long as it is making you uncomfortable, it is pushing you. It is pushing your limits. And how come this isn't cremation ground? How come this isn't a glory practice? I mean, it is in a way. I mean, I'm saying very sort of metaphorically, vaguely, but really there is a sense that I'm making this link. Like, you don't have to be eating from a scale, because the point of a glory practice is for you to challenge yourself, right? You're encountering something that that's usually will make you incredibly uncomfortable. That's the point. So it doesn't matter really if your discomfort is eating from a human scale, or your discomfort is somebody is hating on you so much. It doesn't matter. As long as you are feeling so uncomfortable, then you're being pushed. And by this process, being pushed, you're being pushed out of your limitation, and essentially it's a good thing, because it strengthens your power, it strengthens your Shakti, and overcome this, really, to take it on as a spiritual challenge. Overcome this, and you will only become stronger after this. This is the purifying process. This is the spiritual process. So I am taking this on like full-heartedly. I am just, really seeing this as part of my practice. And I also had this image of, I think there are Shaolin masters, like the Chinese masters, like they do things like Kung Fu. Just generally trying to say that in a kind of like Western way, but I remember there was a scene where somebody, I think they're trying to strengthen their solar plexus or something, like this area, stomach area, like the power, solar power here, right? And another person or the master is like hitting them here, and keep hitting, and that's how you practice, right? That's how you get stronger. You get pushed, you get hit, and then you can get stronger. I'm saying this area because solar plexus is like, it's the heart, where the heart is. This is where your own sun energy is, and it's where your self-esteem is. And when those people trying to affect your self-esteem, when they try to push you down, when they try to make you feel bad about yourself, essentially, right? They are trying to create this illusion about you. And they want you to buy into what they are projecting onto you, right? Their own imagination. They want you to actually become the character that they are creating in their own head, which is their own, projection and imagination. They want you to become what they believe you to be, and then they are affecting you right here, solar plexus. I mean, if you're sensitive, you can feel it literally here, being like pushed, attacked, like this kind of hitting. But I remember that scene where the master is hitting and trying to strengthen this area for the student, right? It's like you're being hit and hit and hit, and that's how you're being strengthened. And I know like a lot of people who have I think it is IBS, something like their stomach, this stomach problem. I think it is because their self-esteem is being hit way too many times. And unfortunately, a lot of people who get sick, I think, is because, they were affected negatively by things like this. But I think if you are serious about your spiritual path, and you want to take it on, like I want to take it on as a practice. You know what? You want to hit it here? Sure, hit it. Like, this is gonna be my opportunity to strengthen myself, to strengthen my self-identity, self-identity not in a, not to go into the whole ego topic, like self-identity as ego, but you exist and you have to have an ego. But anyways, do not go in there. But in a I'm saying that in a positive way, like you want to create a negative image about me and you want me to buy into it. No. Like, you want to hit it, hit it. This is gonna be a process for me to strengthen myself and to get to know myself much, much better. So I'm gonna use this, actually. I'm gonna use your attack as my main practice, as a great practice for myself. And we'll see how strong you're gonna make me, right? So thank you for that. And the sixth thing is about depersonalization. You know, from personal experience, the first thing, nobody ever does just a thing once. If they do something to you or to others once, you know, they're probably gonna keep doing it. Like, it's gonna be twice, it's gonna be third. Like, people have this repeating behaviors, patterns about themselves. Second thing is, like, nobody ever does things once to one person, which is what I want to say about depersonalization. It's not personal, really. It's not personal at all. They do this to you once and twice and over again. It says there's a pattern within themselves, right? That's a karmic pattern. And also, whatever about this karmic link is like their karma is pulling out your karma. So it is my karma to receive this. It's like when you are entangled with another person, the two of you, when you are entangled, you're pulling out each other's certain karmas of each other. This is how we behave. You know, we are different with different people. We behave differently with different people. We can be entirely different persons when it comes to different people. That's why, because we all have like different sets of karmic patterns. And when we encounter another, right, and you pull out each other different karmic patterns that you have to work out, right? Anyways, if somebody is doing this to you over and over again, they're pulling this out of me, but then their karma is about doing this, throwing this at me also. It's their pattern. And since it's a karmic pattern, it cannot be just me, right? This person must do this to others many times also. There must be others who have, you know, they have done the same too. And actually, in my case, I realized like this is really not personal because, you know, I hear their gossip not only about me, but when they are gossiping negatively about other people as well. So you know what? That's their karmic pattern, or their sanskar, which means imprint. They have that imprint, right? It's not personal. They threw it at me. I have my own karmic pattern. They pull this out of me. Okay, fine. Well, they have that pattern. They also gonna do that to others and pull certain other things out of other people as well. Well, you know what? It's just this process. So it's like a machine that's programmed this way, on and on and on and on. So they're gonna do it over and over and over. So it's like, you know, I happen to be there. Karmic thing happened, okay. But, you know, they're gonna keep doing it to others as well. And essentially it's because they have that pattern within themselves. So, you know, this is how I begin to depersonalize. It's really not personal. It's not. It's just, you know, they have a pattern they need to work out. And apparently I have a pattern that I need to work out as well, which is what I'm trying to work out right now. So, the seventh thing is that, and this is gonna be finishing very quickly. I have 9 things to say, so if you're here still, bear with me. The seventh thing is very important to whatever you do not send negative energy towards the other person. And this is what I've been learning just these few days. It's hard. Honestly, it's hard. It's hard to not think negatively about the other person. It's hard to not wish negative things upon the other person. I mean, because I think that's how we react. If you feel attacked, you want to attack back, right? You want to, you know, at least in your mind, Maybe you don't do it behaviorally. Maybe they attack you in their behavior, our behavior. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're somebody who just sort of like swallowed all this, or you kind of you want to keep your karmic account clean, so you try not to do anything. But your mind, your emotion, still you're doing karma in your head. Your emotion, you are having negative reaction. You're thinking about the other person negatively, right? And that's karma too. And you're creating your destiny by doing that karma within yourself. So they threw their karmic pattern with you. You got entangled, right? Because you have a reaction. If you don't have a reaction behaviorally, you have reaction in your mind and emotion. You have negative energy. It's usually mutual. If somebody giving you negative energy, we tend to just naturally giving them back negative energy. But I thought, this is very hard. But whatever you do, try not to think about them negatively. Try not to go there in your mind. Try not to imagine like negative things about them. Try not to say negative words about them in your head, right? Try not to have so much anger direct back towards them. Why? Because, first of all, you have your own karma. You need to keep your karmic account as clean as possible. You try not to create even more karma than what's already there, right? And also how they behave should not dictate how you behave, right? They are disrespectful towards you. That shouldn't change who you are. You treat people with respect. You treat people with kindness, as much kindness as you could. You treat people well. You treat people the way you want to be treated, right? If that is your principle. This is the person you want to become. This is the person you are. Don't change yourself because of them. Don't fall into their lane, right? They are nasty towards you. Suddenly you also become nasty. Then you are falling into, the quote-unquote devil's trap, right? Because the negative force want you to do this. They want you to fall from the light. They want you to fall from your elevated state. They want you to lose your light, your shine, your trust, your loving, kind heart, really. Or if we don't say it so smooshily, make it so, but the point being, they want you to fall from your gracefulness. There is a gracefulness that a being can embody, and we can all aspire to be a graceful person. I want to be a graceful person, and I want to, in such a messy, sometimes really disgusting world, it's very hard to remain grace, but we must do it. I think that's the challenge. We must keep our light. We must keep ourselves. So it doesn't matter what they do, how they treat you, what they are acting towards you. You remain respectful. You remain graceful, and you remain elevated. You remain forgiving also. And that's another thing that I want to talk about, forgiving, is that I thought about this. It's really hard to not send negative energy and to be negative about these people, but really we must cultivate forgiveness in our hearts. Compassion is one thing, and also forgiveness. It's so much easy said than done. This morning, while I was taking a walk, suddenly I had the Lord's Prayer in my head. And I don't identify as a Christian, or I don't identify with any religion. I'm just really interested in religion and spiritual things. But the Lord's Prayer suddenly popped up in my head. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed by thy name, thy kingdom come. May thy will be done on earth as it was in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And let us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. It's such a beautiful, beautiful prayer. I love this prayer, and but I haven't dig into Christianity for a while now, but suddenly it popped up. And my favorite line in here has always been this line. Forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And I think that's my favorite line for a reason. It's for a time like this, probably. Forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. Because I've done wrong too. Nobody is perfect, right? I reacted negatively in my mind towards the other person. For a moment, I didn't wish them well. I thought, why would I wish you well when you obviously wish me to fall to the deepest pit? I thought, why would I wish you well? But then I thought, no, actually, no, you know what? I will choose to wish you well anyway. At least as an effort in my mind, at least I will try to do that. At least I will wish you well in my mind, making the effort to wish you well, making an effort to think well about you in my head anyway. So that's a choice. Forgiveness is a choice. Being graceful is a choice. It's a choice. And I'm making it. I'm making that choice that I'm gonna wish you well. Really. I mean, it is something you need to exercise and cultivate to make it genuine. But at least as an effort, I am trying. I'm gonna try to turn this to a positive direction. At least in my heart and in my own mind. So there's that. 8th thing. Okay, we have 2 more things to go. Oh dang, I have to go, but 2 more things. One is that I saw just the other day, there is a picture, an image of an eagle flying, and there was a raven attacking the eagle. And then the eagle just fly higher and higher. Eventually, the raven falls off. And there's a text saying this, like, the eagle will be attacked by ravens. The raven's gonna come and attack eagles while the eagle is flying. And the eagle, will pay no minds to the raven. The raven is gonna attack. The eagle keep flying, just keep flying higher and higher and higher until when the eagle flies so high that there wouldn't be enough oxygen for the raven, and the raven naturally falls off. There will be no ravens as the eagle flies so high. And you know what? That is the message. You are going to fly so high, so above. Just keep flying. Just keep developing, keep progressing, keep strengthening, keep flying. The raven's gonna fall off by themselves. Pay no mind to them, just keep flying. And the last thing I want to say is, like, if you feel a kind of external restriction, you feel like all of this external people, environment is restricting you to really freely express who you are, to be who you are, do you think it's highly unsupportive, you feel really restricted because you are such a free spirit and your soul wants to expand and fly and just be free, and you feel like your environment is not allowing you, I think we need to look at ourselves internally, because I always believe that the external is a reflection of our internal state. If you're so unbounded and limitless within yourself, then if truly you have done enough inner work, it's being cleared out all the obstacles and restrictions internally inside of you has been cleared out, then I don't think, first of all, it probably wouldn't have, even if you reflected, if something happening on the outside world, you wouldn't be affected by it, right? Some kind of restriction you feel, some kind of clamps down on you is happening on your external world. But you wouldn't feel affected by it, right? Internally, you will just feel, you will just deal with it. Naturally deal with it. Naturally, you wouldn't be affected by it. If you are still in some way affected by it, it says everything about your internal state, the things you need to still work on internally. It's just a reflection. Really, the external restriction is a reflection of your internal state. So, that being said, 40 minutes. I have to go, and that's all. Whoever you're watching, whoever you're watching, keep flying.